You're saying it should be somewhere. Somewhere it should be put into the files. You hear? It takes 8 minutes for the light of the sun to reach us. It's an 8-minute journey. Remember, the light travels 186,000 miles per second, so it's 8 minutes. But the light to get from the core of the sun to the perimeter, to the outer surface of the sun, takes 100,000 years.
Because it runs into electrons and atomic nuclei scattering off each one.
The electrons and the atomic nuclei make. It's not just the speed of light. Yeah. And then once it hits the surface, boom, 8 minutes later it's here. You know, there's a telescope that they recently sent out a few months ago. James Webb Telescope, it's called. And they brought back pictures. I mean, the telescope brought pictures from galaxies that are 4.6 billion light years away. Now think about that for a moment. The distance light travels in a second, 186,000 miles in a second. How much does light travel? In 2 seconds? In a minute? In 8 minutes? You get to the sun. In an hour? Okay, now do a day, a week, a month, a year. Now do 100 years. Now do 4.6 billion light years. And everybody knows, they estimate this is only a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the universe. And they're unbelievable pictures. They're like incredible pictures. I was looking at them. They're really very powerful pictures. Within each galaxy, there's 100 billion stars.
It's all marvelous. That's not real pictures.
Okay. It gives us a message, you know.
Is it real pictures?
Yeah.
The telescope.
They use infrared and all the spectrum, and they build real
Feedback. Was tut sich oben? Da mal Meile mach. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, they measure, but the numbers are not. We say 4.6 billion, you know, even $4.6 billion is not so little, but light years is a whole different.
Inside the sun is called the chaotic light path.
The chaotic light path from the core of the sun to launch. Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Huh? Tell you. No, the journey from Ma'ir to Eir is much, much more quantum than the journey from Eir to the furthest distance. That's the Vart. Eir is light. There's light, but once it's light, it's light. The journey from the source of light to light, that's in a way a much... To create light, yeah. To create light. The Lashon of Chassidus, there's Atzmos, there's the Meir, and then there's the Eir. Yeah, the journey from the Meir to the Eir. Once there's Eir, it's already, in the Lashon of the Rambam, there's Metzias, Bilti Metzias Nimtza, and there's Metzias Nimtza. There's a non-existential state of existence, and then there's an existential state of existence. The Eir, Hashem's Eir is already Metzias. It's called Metzias. It's not a Metzias like the table. It's divine, but it's Metzias. Once it's Metzias, it's relatable. Maybe 4.6 billion light years. I don't mean that number. I'm just that concept. But the Meir, the source, is Metzias, Bilti Metzias Nimtza. It can't be defined as an existence. There's an expression in Tafresh Samach Vav, that's a series of the Rebbe Rashab, that on Atzmos, you can't say it exists. You also won't say it doesn't exist. But saying it exists is as ridiculous as saying it doesn't exist. shlilas hachiyuv, u'shlilas hashlila. I won't say on it not, but I won't say on it yes either. it's as ridiculous. So mamela yesh b'hakal shlilas hachiyuv u'shlilas hashlila. Okay, so what's the main nekuda? Last year was dealing with some very profound perspectives that are profound both in terms of thought and even more experientially. But just to summarize the main point, and I'm skipping all the evolution of all the details which are important, but I'm skipping because I mentioned it all in the previous classes. So just get to the main point. There's a mashal from the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Balatanya, in the Sefer Derech Mitzvasecha. He gives a mashal, and today we can apply it very well with games, board games. I don't know if they had board games. I don't think they had board games then. But he gives a metaphor, very interesting metaphor, which he says is not a true metaphor for the tzimtzum, for the idea in Kabbalah and the Arizal that Hashem made a tzimtzum pre-creation. So he says, you would think a good metaphor would be a father who's playing a game with his children. Yeah. Let's take a board game, take a Monopoly game. Take Monopoly, right? Used to involve the whole family before the phones, before everybody was on phones. They used to play Monopoly. Zechrona Levracha. There's still a few people who do it. Huh? Shabbos. So there's a lot of real estate going on over there. And you're making and you're losing, right? You're losing big time. You're almost wiped off the map. Financial crisis. And the child is taking it seriously. Money is money and real estate is real estate. And if the father in the middle of the game says, you're such a baby and this is such a stupid game. There's real money. You defeated the whole purpose. Right? When you lose, you have to lose. And your facial expressions are one of loss. When you're winning, you're winning. Even though it's all a Monopoly game. And it's called a game. But in the child's world, he's connecting to you emotionally through the Monopoly game. Because you're upset and you're cheering for him, you're cheering for yourself, whatever the experience of the game is. But the Tzemach Tzedek says it's a horrible metaphor. It's a good metaphor, but he says it's not a good metaphor because it's fake. Ultimately, in other words, 5 minutes later when the game is over, when you go to the kitchen because your wife needs you, right? That whole game has no reality. So he says the mistake you could make is that Tzimtzum created, I don't know, maybe too powerful words, like a fake God. A Monopoly game. Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. So now I could cry with you, I could feel you, you could feel me, we could connect. But the moment I retreat to myself, I don't have to play Monopoly, I don't even know that there's a game there. It's completely inconsequential and insignificant, inauthentic. So you have two ways of going about it. You have the philosophical perspective, you have the Kabbalistic perspective. Philosophical perspective secured God's immunity, God's transcendence, God's unmovability. I think I just made up a word. Unchangeability, immovability, but you get the point. And it secured it. And any problem that comes up, we'll deal with that problem. But don't mess, don't tamper with something that philosophically is very sacred. It's muvdal, it's aloof, it's sublime, it's don't even speculate about it. Don't think you can touch it. The Tzimtzum said Hashem restricted himself, right? He comes into a finite world. He created a zone, a space where the infinite doesn't have to take over all reality. There could be a relationship with him, and that's called in Kabbalah Atzilus. The world of Atzilus is the zone in which God, so to speak, descends into a persona. They call it Adam Ha'elyon from Yecheskel, Adam Ha'elyon, the higher man. But you call it Adam. not that it's an Adam like a physical Adam, but it's the source of the physical Adam. Like I said, B'tzalmeinu kidmusenu. There is an image, there's a mirror, there's a reflection. Once there's spheres, once Hashem is manifested in spheres, so now my emotions somehow have contact, there's relationship in both ways. Like he says, the structures of the spheres allow for the structures of the world. And every nekuda in the world, every atom, every cell, every energy, every chemical has a shirish in spheres. The whole Kabbalah, that's the conversation. When you're looking at an apple, you could be looking at an apple with your eyes, you could be looking at an apple with a microscope, and you could be looking at an apple with a Kabbalistic microscope. And when you look at an apple with the Kabbalistic microscope, they're going to tell you, oh, this is Spheres HaMalchus. It's not a joke. It's the question is, what energy is being manifested? The chemistry of an apple is a mirror of spiritual chemistry, and that spiritual chemistry is called mazalois malachim. It's energy, and those malachim, their chemistry comes from a deeper form of chemistry, and all the way it goes up, so to speak, to the divine attribute which devolves and in each world assumes an incarnation that allows it to become more concrete, more tangible, until it becomes an apple. And that's true about the whole universe. And there's not a detail in the universe. As Chazal say, Ein lecha esav milmata, it's a medrash. Ein lecha esav milmata, she'ein loi mazel milmayla, hamaka boi v'omer legdal. There's not a blade of grass down here that is not growing because of some spiritual, celestial mazel. What does that mean? It doesn't mean mazel, it has luck. Mazel is a system. There's a system. Just like there's the laws of nature evolve from spiritual laws of nature. Fire is in Kabbalah, fire is called Gvura. Water is called Chesed. Red is Gvura, blue is Chesed, etc., etc. It's not like stam, funny jokes. In Kabbalah they talk about yichudim, right? What's yichudim? Unifications. Everything is unifications. It means actually tuning in to the spiritual chemistry of the universe. And where does it begin? It begins in spheres, Hashem's spheres, Hatzilus. But, so what does this accomplish? So he created a fake God. So the Tzimtzum says, you know what, I'll play Monopoly with you guys. You'll feel better, I'll play Monopoly. But you and I know that in the middle of the night, that when the father is back to life, the Monopoly game is not what. I never saw anybody go to therapy. Anybody go to therapy and say, I lost Monopoly on Shabbos. If they do, then they probably, there's some issues there. You try to win your child in the game. I lost Monopoly. My life is a mess because I lost. Somebody could come in and say, I lost $1 million. I lost my house. I lost my family, right? I lost the Monopoly game. I lost Stratego. I lost Risk. I lost Uno. You ever played Uno? You ever lose? You never lose. You don't have this problem, Baruch Hashem. I lost Uno. I always lose Uno. So it's good. I want my son to be entertained, and there's a love there, and there's a connection there. But to say that game is touches me. So you're left with this paradox, and this is the Chiddush that the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal HaTanya, particularly in his writings and all of his teachings, brought out the Nekuda of Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshutai. That the polarity, you have to transcend, you have to go out of the polarity. We're formulating existence in terms of polarities, either this or that. That's what you see in this Maimer he keeps on bringing out. One has to be able to cultivate a perspective and an experience of fusion, of real unity, of real achdus. What does that mean? The main nekuda is that the tzimtzum is not kipshuta. What does it mean in English, tzimtzum is not kipshuta? What it means is that when you speak about the infinite withdrawing itself in order to create space for a finite universe, which needs finite energy, in order to validate it and make it exist on a level of gvul, on a level of finiteness, never think that that's detached from the Ein Sof. On the contrary, real Ein Sof, real infinity, can be more finite than finite, because it's truly infinite. If it's truly infinite, it can express itself in every conceivable way, in infinity and also in finiteness. So when I'm looking at the finite, the question is what I'm seeing. Am I seeing finite? But if I could cleanse my perception and trace it back to a deeper place, what am I seeing? I'm seeing infinity. It's just infinity the way it's packaged or manifested through the finite. But it's not truly just finite divorced from infinity. When you say tzimtzum is not kipshuta, it means that in the presence of the world, it's like pre-tzimtzum. The whole Ein Sof and the whole Earth of Ein Sof. The shaila is only what eyes, what kalim, what vessels, what instruments I'm using to define reality. But each reality can be traced back to its truth, which is infinity. This is not a statement just about infinity and finite. It translates literally into every level of experience. I'll just tell you one. There's a lot more, but just one nakuda. It's about engagement with the world or disengagement from the world. The Maggid of Mezrich, there was a Yid, his name was Rabbi Avram Kalisker. Avram Kalisker was a student of the Vilna Gaon. He was a big Gaon. He heard a word from the Mezritcher Maggid, and he became a chassid. Rabbi Avram Kalisker, he's buried in Tveria. What was the word from the Mezritcher Maggid? One word. Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. What's Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha? We say it every morning before Krishma. What's Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha? Literally, it means the whole earth is filled with your acquisitions, from the word kinyan. In other words, it's like you'll say, the whole Fifth Avenue belongs to him, right? All the newspapers belong to him. The whole world was bought by God, is acquired by Hashem, because it's his. It doesn't belong. Hashem Artzim Loya. Mala, the ganze Welt is kinyan nech, it's your kinyan, it's koine shemayim v'aretz. You own it, you created it, it's your acquisition. What's the energy you're hearing in this word? What's the energy? Huh? Ich bin garnished. Okay. Mala, it's kinyan nech, the Sod of Yiddishkeit, Hashem Artzim Loya. I didn't make this world, he made it, it's his world. The Maggid said, Mala ha'aretz kinyan necha. He said in Yiddish, the ganze Welt, jede Nekude in Welt, Mala, the ganze Welt is full mit Sachen, durch welche ich kann dir keine sein. The whole world is filled with opportunities to acquire you. Mala, there's no Nekude in the world through which you can't acquire the Rebbeinu Shalom. You're holding a raisin, you can acquire Hashem. You're having an emotion, you can acquire Hashem. Avram Kalisker was a serious Jew. What's the nekuda? What is he saying? But Pashtus Olam Haza is a dark world. It's a prusdor. Shetikonis Latraklin. Get through the corridor, past the Nisyonis and get to the real world. In Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta, it's the exact opposite. In every nekuda, there's Ein Sof. So there's no disengagement, there's engagement. In simple words, you're not depressed about the world. You celebrate life. You celebrate. Sometimes Yiddishkeit can be associated with a little sadness, with a little depression. That's why you'll see in Torah Hashem there's such an emphasis on Simcha and Eslavos. Why? So people think because the Baal Shem Tov, he was for the ADHDs. It wasn't for intellectual giants. Intellectual giants could sit on a Gemara all day for 95 years. Baal Shem Tov understood the masses, they need action. So how do you make action? So you make a tish, you bring sprinkle cake, mezakt alechayim, tanzt. But the elite of Judaism, of course, looks down at these farmers who just need entertainment, social entertainment. Even Chassidim think that, a lot of them. when I hear people say it or read it, I could cry. Because the Baal Shem Tov had 60 of his closest students who were the Geonim of the generation. Many of them were Av Bezdins. They were top Geonim. You take a person like the Balatanya, yeah? The Rakachava said, the Rambam after the Tanoim and Amirayim, the Rakachava said, the Rambam hat gekent lernen and the Alter Rebbe hat gekent lernen. The Rakachava Gaon was very sharp. It says, the Rambam knew how to learn and the Alter Rebbe knew how to learn. You had the Mezritcher Magid himself was a Gaon that told us Yaakov Yosef, Reb Chaim HaKohen Rappaport, The Blitzer Baditshira was an Av Bezdin of huge communities. So these Gaonim who sat and learned their whole life, what were they attracted to? Some sponge cake, herring, a few people dancing around the table, a shalashudas, a boring shalashudas that's dark. But you could, it's exactly what the Tzimtzum did. You could see something from a chitzoniistic perspective. You don't see the pneumius. I just realized the metaphor I'm giving, it brings out the point. You could look at a world, and you could see one world. You could look at the same world, and the same reality is a different reality. The question is your perception, your perspective. The idea of the simcha was a practical, emotional consequence of a Weltanschauung, of a world in which the tzimtzum was just an opportunity. It wasn't a concealment. It was a relationship through experience, through the world, not a real concealment, an obstruction. If you took in the emotional world, till today in the Jewish world, including in the Orthodox world, you'll have two different streams of thought. One stream of thought is that, emotions are messy. A much better way of living is just saying, Gad Zu L'Tov, everything is good, and accept it, and be a soldier, and put one foot ahead of another foot, and forge ahead, and don't go to certain places. It's complicated, it's messy, it's dysfunctional. Don't get so emotional, don't feel everything. And if you can amputate part of your heart, is noch besser. If you could repress it or suppress it, we'll go for that. The main thing is avodas Hashem. You serve Hashem. You're a good person. You follow Shulchan Aruch, and they're called Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. There's another approach, and the other approach is no. You have to process your emotions, and you have to experience them, and you have to let them flow through you. And you need to make space for them, and you need to have compassion for them. And there's a lot of frustration, a lot of resentment, and a lot of negativity, and a lot of toxicity, and many wounds, and a lot of loneliness, and a lot of shame, and a lot of pain. I had a Baba. She was a tzaddikus, but she went through a lot. I once asked her, Baba, you're happy? She looked at me like I fell off a planet 4.6 billion light years away. She said, Yosef Yitzchak, was hackst da Chainek? You understand the answer? Was hackst, you know what hacking a Chainek is? Pounding on an empty kettle. Means doing something stupid. Was hackst da Chainek? Sei matzliach und bring Mashiach, yevarechecha und gegefin hashidduch. Which in English means you need a girl. maybe actually it was a pretty wise answer. I was thinking about it. She wanted to get to the core of it. Maybe I'm underestimating the emotional brilliance of my grandmother. Probably, right? And she also said, come eat. I'll give you food. Oh. Right? And the truth is, I don't know if we could use this word, but in a way, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. There's a deep intelligence here. You know, when we become judgmental and everybody of this generation is wrong, and we know everything. It's very immature, very immature. Huh? If my grandmother was happy, she wasn't happy. Oh. She told the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but I guess she told him that she suffers from depression. She was a brilliant dancer. She was an unbelievable dancer. So he told her, I told the story once. He told her to go to every chasana that she can and dance away. Not just relatives. Any chasana that she can, she should go and dance. And she did it for 40, 50 years. She lived in Crown Heights on President Street, so a lot of Bali Tshuva got married in the 70s and the 80s, and they don't have family, very little family. So she would go to every chasana. She was a very good dancer, really good dancer. She would dance for hours. So first of all, the exercise was amazing. No, I'm serious, right? And also she came home, she just, she made a matzav. But she asked the question, this is in the 50s, she asked the question, not today. The word depression didn't even exist for many people. My point is, these things are very, very complex. What we're learning here is, in Tzimtzum Shalaika Pshuta, a very profound idea, that the whole polarization of it doesn't begin. Essentially, both attitudes come from Tzimtzum Shalaika Pshuta. One puts God here, one puts God here and they run there, and one puts God here and they run there. It's the same. The two extremes are very close. Fundamentalists always understand each other. You know what I mean? The two extremes are close to each other because they get stuck in a certain extreme. What's the idea of Tzimtzum Shalaika Pshuta? You are a finite consciousness having a finite experience. And therefore it means you never have to be afraid of any experience. You never have to be intimidated by any experience, because even the process of the finite experience, you are infinite consciousness. Or to put it in the words of this mimer, even when you're in the mode of Kalim, where there's direct, intimate knowledge that affects you and transforms you, you're still oir, in which everything is goli v'yadua, and you're not being destroyed. In the same process of having the finite experience, you're still infinite consciousness. So therefore, you never have to be afraid of engagement. You never have to be afraid, practically, of your emotions. You never have to be afraid of feeling your emotions, of processing your emotions, of going into those tunnels that seem so dark, because you're never a finite, miserable, mortal, frail, weak creature. You're not. And that very moment, you are infinite consciousness. If you're a chelik elikam imal, and Tzimtzum is not kipshutai, so you can go into the place, you can go into every place fully, what he calls here bihislapshus. You could be present, not like a Monopoly game, where you're detached. You don't have to shut down. Kivayachal, when Hashem becomes finite, he's taka finite. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to make God vulnerable. Vulnerability won't destroy him. It's not the end of the present. We're afraid that God is vulnerable. Oh my God, it's kfir, it's apikorsis. You're killing my God. So don't worry, he's not dying so fast. You're not dying so fast. You understand what Ein Sof is? And it means there's a real relationship. In simple terms, it means when you're experiencing sadness, right? What is happening at that moment? You're experiencing sadness. One level is, you're a little miserable creature, divorced from the big picture, you don't see anything. So you're sad, you're lonely, you're in pain, you're feeling this pain, you're feeling this loneliness, you're feeling this sadness. So one view says, Hashem is in heaven, why don't you go to heaven? You're not sad. You know when people tell you how you're supposed to feel? Anybody ever told you how you're supposed to feel? You have to be besimcha. Okay, I'm besimcha. Everything is perfect. You pinch your cheeks, it's rosy, you're besimcha. Hashem is there, that's where truth is. Just daven, you want to say Tillim, say Tillim. In other words, you disengage someone. And then another one says, no, tell me more. What do you guys say? Tell me more, yeah? Tell me more. Let's get more into the sadness. And that's like, Hashem, bye, I'll be back for mincha, but I really got to deal with my emotions now. Tzimtzum Shalaika Pshuta means your experience of sadness is God's experience of sadness. Your experience of sadness is God's experience of sadness. There's a real relationship. It's not a fake relationship, a pseudo, it's a real relationship. That's the chiddush of Atzilus and Sfiris with the Tzimtzum Shalai Kipshuta. That sadness is not just the human pathetic creature who's compromised. Adam Yisoidem Eyafa V'Soifer La'afer. Ka'avak Perdeach Chachaloim Yof. Va'ato Hu Melech Keil V'Chayam. V'Kayam. And Tzimtzum Shalai Kipshuta means you're part of the Melech Chai V'Kayam. Huh? Du bist a Chayid, l'mayin afgemina. Huh? Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta was said about the whole world, not just about Jews. You don't say in Borough Park, in Lakewood, and in Muncie, Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta. The moment you go into Manhattan and Los Angeles, yeah? Over there, Tzimtzum Kipshuta. The reason the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent shluchim to every corner of the world is one reason. Because Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta. It's the only reason. If Tzimtzum Kipshuta, you're right. You got to stay in the Beis Medrash. On the contrary, this is what allows the sadness not to become depression. This is what allows my pain not to destroy me. This is what allows my experience of agony not to turn me into the loneliest person in the world. Because what this means is, if Tzimtzum is not Kipshutai, that it's infinite consciousness going through a very finite journey, so I can really be present in that journey. I can really, really feel it. And not only am I not divorced from Hashem, but this very, very experience, you can ultimately find the full truth and glory of existence in it. If I have the courage to remain focused and allow myself to experience it in its full totality, which is really Ein Sof. And therefore it's going to bring me much closer to myself, to people, to Hashem, to reality. On the contrary, it's going to allow me to bring the infinite light into the darkest places of existence, which is called Dira B'Tachtayim. I'm not trying to say something philosophical, my friends. I could, but I'm not trying. I'm trying to say something that can be hopefully applied to experience.
That's what I never saw a person that goes into his tragedy and comes out, smiling and sympathetic and ready to do the That's the start of the story.
The Pinchas Koritzer, the story I said in the first shir, Ich weiß und weiß nicht. He wasn't trying to say Hashem is a computer and he knows that you have bills to pay. Shekayach. The IRS also know that I have bills to pay. They don't give a hoot. My mortgage, my bank also knows that I have bills to pay. So Hashem knows more than my bank. Okay. He knows about all my bills. Your Pinchas Koritzer says, I'm here feeling you. You think he's not feeling you? I don't think you're putting it, a person goes into the tragedy and I want the conveyor should come out on the other dime and say, okay, let's go drink. We all know that there is depression and there's suicide and there's overdose and there's despair where a person becomes paralyzed. Right? What is that really? It's complete, I'm completely in isolation. I'm really in isolation. I wasn't planning to use the word, but according to, this is probably already Freud's definition, but it's probably a very authentic definition. The key in trauma, the devastating thing in trauma is not the experience, it's the isolation. The child who was molested, even by his father, and has a mother to come to and embrace him, is in a different space, right? Bessel van der Kolk, in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, has a story about two children who saw the 9/11 attacks. They were in Manhattan. They both saw the Twin Towers go up in flames. One went home and drew a picture of it. And he showed it to his family. He was fine. The other one didn't talk. Years later, he was suffering. In other words, there was nothing to contain it. There was nothing to contain my trauma. I'm in a helpless state. I'm completely alone in the universe. What does that do to me? 20 years later, I'm still alone in the universe, even though nothing is happening. There's me in the room, nobody else besides a lion who wants to eat me and maul me. That's the Nakuda. It doesn't take away the pain of life. Unfortunately, till the ultimate tikkun and the gula, life is filled with pain. And people are hurt, we know that. And the discussion here is how I process it. Ultimately, tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai means at the core of this encounter and experience, there's infinite light. There's infinite love. Now, that can sound very, love, 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 love. But that's exactly not the point. Tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai doesn't mean the world is fake. It means the real world, in its authentic manifestations, the gvul is bli gvul. So therefore, I ought to know, it behooves me to know that as I'm entering and I'm walking through the corridors of life, as I'm hiking through the trail of life, who's hiking through the trail of life? If I'm infinite light, if I'm a chelik alakamimal, and literally an ambassador, shluchah shalodam kamoisei, look at the Torah Vayeira, what the Rabbi says, every neshama is shluchah shalodam kamoisei mamash. Like we always say, an ambassador of Hashem. It's divinity. It's Ein Sof. So it's not like there's the world of Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim. Be a soldier of Hashem. Be an Erlich Yid. Be a Fruma Yid. I don't care how you feel. You shouldn't care. Or the other way is like, I had enough of religion, I got to heal. Which a lot of people feel. I had enough of religion, I got to heal. Give me time to heal. Maybe I'll come back when I'm older. I got to heal. Some people in this room know very well, you felt that your path of healing came at the expense of Judaism. Because Judaism, in your mind, meant the antithesis of healing. It just meant fit into the community, give your father nachas, give your Zayda more nachas, give your elder Zayda nachas. If not, Hitler is going to win. And call me for the mitzvah tans. That's it. I don't want to hear it. Just call me for the mitzvah tans. 1 a.m, I'll be available for the mitzvah tans. I want nachas. And this is not negative. Don't worry, the olam haba that you have in store is unbelievable. A woman once came over to me after a class. She said, my life is miserable, but I'm happy. I said, wow, that's beautiful. Why? She says, because I know that the more misery, the more olam haba. So I'm happy. What? Should really be miserable. I didn't want to tell her. Huh? From Tzayda Agra. The chiddush of tzimtzum shaloi kipshutai is, to use the lashon of this maimer is, the went into the keli. The keli is very vulnerable. The keli is finite, so to speak. God became finite, but God becoming finite doesn't mean that He's not God. And that means that you who are an expression of the finiteness of Hashem, what are you? You ain't safe. So it means in my sadness, there is a relationship, and a deep relationship, and an authentic relationship with the essence itself, with Hashem Himself. It's not a fake relationship. Reb Moshe Zever will te besagen.
begs the question, it seems like it's God having an experience with himself.
Okay.
So where's the me in that equation?
You're saying it's God having an experience with himself.
Me is God. You have to say that.
I mean, you could say that, but there was a tzimtzum also.
So there is a me, and there's
Yeah, there's a me, of course. That's the point. You're going back to philosophy. You understand? Which I get it. You never left philosophy, okay? Which I understand. It's like, so you're doing a game again. So you're doing a sophisticated game on us, okay? So you're telling me it's a game, but don't call it Monopoly, okay? Let's call it life.
the struggle that one has
Right.
to find himself in an infinite way when he receives himself as being finite.
Yeah. Yeah. In many ways, our instincts are truest. You know, social evolutionary philosophers, psychologists love saying there's no free choice. They love saying there's no free choice. Right? But every Pashut person in the world knows there's free choice. They'll bring you a billion rayas, there's no. With CAT scans and brain scans and mice. And it's good questions. It's good questions about free choice.
They were forced.
Huh?
They were forced.
Yeah. Isaac Bashevis Singer says, we have to believe in freedom of choice. We got no choice. But in a way, you're right. The moment you really believe you don't have free choice, you know the game is over, right? So they say, yeah, you're a machine. Everything is fake. We know that we exist because the tzimtzum is real. When I'm sad, I am sad. So Chassidus comes back to that truth. It's real, but it's not just real. It's as real as it gets. In many ways, your emotions become much more real than any other way because they're real, not just because you're a Nebuch case and you're a vulnerable small person. They're real because Hashem is real. So it gives it a validity and a legitimacy. And what we just want to let me finish the sentence, and no need to disengage and cut it off and be afraid of it. I can be fully present in life with everything that life brings, all the joys and all the disappointments, all the ecstasy and all the frustration, all the moments of exhilaration and intimacy, and the moments of separateness and anguish, all the moments of delight and the moments of pain. I could be fully inside present, and yet, instead of being destroyed and devoured and disintegrated, I actually become much closer to everything. I become much closer to truth. Why? Because that very experience is, and I who is in that experience, it's essentially Ein Sof. And therefore, as affected as you are, you're also completely unaffected. One of the most powerful things of this Maimon is that Alter Rebbe takes the philosophical immunity of God, Goli v'yadua. Nothing touches him. And he said, really? If nothing touches him, you know what that means? That means nothing touches you. Nothing touches me? Really? Nothing touches me? You know what happened to me? Why am I a basket case? Why am I having anxiety for 40 years? Why am I self-conscious for 35 years? Nothing touches me. Really? Nothing touches me. So look what do people do? So they'll do, nothing really touches you. It's just the Yitzhahara. That's always some kipshut. Like just go, detach. And the other one is, yeah, you are a basket case. You really messed up. and I could really wallow in that, and there's a lot of despair in that. Here, I'm fully present. Of course something touched me. And it redefined me. But who am I? I'm Ein Sof. So how did it really redefine me? It redefined me in the sense that it made me much more Ein Sof. It made me more infinite, because the more the infinite expresses itself in finiteness, the more its infinity comes out. MS? You hear what I'm saying? So this very experience that destroyed you really didn't touch you in the slightest, in the negative. On the contrary, it only brought out your infinite light. So who's right? And that, they're both very real. If I can only experience the world from the perspective of tzimtzum, which is real, it's real. I just got a punch in my belly. That hurts. I'm not infinite, sorry. I was bullied as a child. What about somebody who was abused as a child? What about somebody who was abused for 10 years of their life as a child? To say they weren't affected is the most cruel thing, right? Say, just move on, just move. You know when people say just move on? Anybody ever told that to you? Just move on. Shut your mouth and move on. You know, your kids' shidduchim are all going to be ruined if you talk. And nobody's going to get into seminary. Wonderful. So to be able to be fully present, and yet in your full presence, what is present? I just want you to hear. What is present in your full presence? Tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta means we're not afraid of anything, because every situation, in its deepest core, is pure dveikus with Ein Sof, because that's who you are. So you know everything in an engaged way where you're completely affected by it, and at the same time, it's gali v'yadua. And both are true. And don't try to pit one against the other, because pitting against one the other causes people to detach from the real truth.
So, Rabbi, what is the
So Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. You want to say, I feel, therefore I am. The truth is that he was trying to minimize human existence. My whole existence is that I think I exist. And there's a truth to it, because even physics today, they'll say everything is consciousness, right? Right? As one scientist says, when you leave your house to go on vacation, your house doesn't exist anymore. I wish the bank agreed, but they don't learn physics. They only learn finances in university. If they would learn physics, they would know the house doesn't exist. They wouldn't send me my mortgage bills.
Opposite. The bank is an observer. Therefore, house does exist.
The bank always observes the house, so they bring it back into existence. So there's a deep truth in that, but the vart of tzimtzum is, don't minimize existence. Existence is authentic. The vart of tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta is, it's as authentic as Hashem himself. So in a way, philosophy deprived people from a real emotional, ecstatic, romantic relationship with God. Like, don't delude yourself, okay? It's like, you're not getting married to an ant tomorrow, unless bistoit meshiga. You know, ants serve a purpose. We respect ants. But I'm not becoming a chavrusa with an ant tomorrow. Emes? Maybe some people, I know some people spend their lives analyzing ants. I'm one of them. But I like these little creatures. But there's a certain gap in the relationship. Came the Kabbalists and said, no. It's not. There's a lot of love and a lot of passion and a lot of emotions. But what is that with a fake God who made believe that he's playing Monopoly with you? Came the Balatanya and said, Tzimtzum is shaloi kipshuta. So there's a relationship with Hashem himself, and in every moment, and in every experience, and in every situation. So it's a different simcha. It's not simcha you're going to drink after it. I don't need a drink afterwards. The whole thing is one big l'chaim. Verstehst? You're waiting for me to come out of the other side of the tunnel and say, let's say l'chaim. The process itself is a größer l'chaim. It's very true, but I think it's deeper than this. You see today, it's all an expression of what Hashem reveals in the world. Try talking to a group of teenagers today, any group, and tell them the right derech in avodas Hashem is to shut down most of your emotions and just do what your parents say and your grandparents say, and follow the derech hayishara, and one day you'll be happy. And how do people respond to that today? Huh?
I wasn't saying it in that sense.
No, but I'm saying, what do you see? What do you see? Huh?
You're chilled out. You don't feel anything.
They shut down, right? They shut down.
You're bringing the aura of Mashiach, the light of Mashiach now, but you can't necessarily experience it fully. But the fact that it's there is the comfort.
Yeah, and there's a lot that we could experience. Obviously, it's before the Geula, but there's a lot we can experience. It says, Tayameh Chayim Zacha. The Magen Avraham says, Erev Shabbos, you have to taste the machalim of Shabbos. So Torah Baal Shem Tov was revealed in Elef Hashishi, in the 7th millennium, right? The Baal Shem Tov was revealed 6 years before Tov Kuf, Tov Tzadik Dalet. Tov Kuf is 5,500, which is Erev Shabbos Chatzos. When is there a mitzvah to be Toya? I heard this from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. When is there a mitzvah to be Toya Machali Shabbos, before Shabbos? Erev Shabbos, after Chatzos. If you go to a Shabbaton with Chassidim, the meal Friday afternoon is much more than you can have a whole Shabbos Amalava Malka. Besides in Satmar over there, the meals of every meal will be shakel like the Lev Yossin and Sheba. They know how to feed people. Right? So what's this Tayameh? Tayameh is that if every day, the Ramban writes, the Ramban says that every day of the Sheshis and Bereshis is a millennium. So 12 hours is 500 years, the second 12 hours is 500 years. So Thursday night began the year 5000 is Thursday night. 5500 is Friday morning. Because 500. I'm sorry, I said Chatzos, Friday morning. Sorry. 5500 is Friday morning. That was the Zman of the Hizgalus of Torah Chassidus. Tov Shenun is 5750. That's 250 years further. That's Erev Shabbos Chatzos. When the Lubavitcher Rebbe started to speak very strongly about Mashiach, right, which Chabad got a lot of flack about, people were in Teufels the Nekuda. It was, who's Mashiach? These Mashiach. The Nekuda was, he was saying it's Erev Shabbos in the afternoon. Erev Shabbos in the afternoon, the house becomes very chaotic. Meloif, mekum, mahakt. But there's already a consciousness of Shabbos. You can't escape it. You can't say, let's treat it like Tuesday. It's not Tuesday, it's Friday afternoon. There's a different energy. The kids are home, the husband is looking for the kugel, and the woman is stressed.
It's crazy without even knowing.
Yeah, there was a guy in the kitchen Friday afternoon, and his wife was very stressed. She had a lot of archim, so she says, what are you doing? What are you standing here in the kitchen? He says, I came to help. She says, you want to help? Leave the house. She was blunt. So he left the house. He went to the Beis Medrash for 2 hours. He went to the mikveh. He was Ma'av Sedra. He did Shir HaShirim. He comes back to the kitchen. His wife says, oh, get you back? He says, 2 hours of geholfen. Wiffel is Ashir helfen. I helped you for 2 hours. How long do you want me to help you? But there's an energy in the house. So what the Rebbe was saying is that history develops, history evolves. We could go back to play horse and buggies. I mean, we don't have to use electricity. We could be the Amish. We could light fires in our house at night. There's something romantic about it for 3 nights if you can, rent a rustic cabin and do it with your wife and don't use electricity. But, right? We can make believe there's no computers and we could just use,
That's the point. The technology now makes a person feel that something huge is happening globally. At the same time, how does it fit into?
Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha.
That's the big question. Every Shabbos.
So yeah, that's every person's avodah, and we need support, and the more awareness we have, and the less fear we have, the more empowered we are.
But even the internet basically is aimed so.
What do you think? You think the internet was created by the Malach HaMavos? By the Sitra Achra? Really? So there's 2 gods in this world?
Sure, but that's how when you.
I don't. A real. It's not thought through. There's 2 gods. Who created the ability for internet in this world, and radio and television? Who? The Sitra Achra? Einoid Mulvada. The fact that I can use the internet in a destructive way, Avada. Who created intimacy? Who decided how we have children? The Satan? Hashem. Can it be used in a promiscuous way? Yeah, of course. Fakert. Whatever, something that's more holy has more energy. Who created nuclear energy? Einstein. Even President Biden, was created by Ein Sof. Believe it or not.
Very remarkable.
Chaviv Adam Shenivra, but Hashem is more capable than you think He is. He can create Democrats too, and even Republicans.
So, Rabbi, what would on that timeline, what would you say?
This is not Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta. It doesn't mean there's no evil in the universe. It doesn't mean there's no corruption. It doesn't mean there's no bchira. Fakert. That's what the Tzimtzum was. That's where the Tzimtzum was. We have to, don't go back. Oh, so there was no Tzimtzum. That's not what we're saying. Then you're back to square one. So there's no Tzimtzum, there's no creation. So fine, so we don't exist. So my sadness does exist. You typhus. There was a Tzimtzum. It's real. But what makes it real? What makes it real is that it gives us the ability to really fuse the infinite and the finite. It's a relationship. If it's not real, there's no relationship. Like you said, God married himself. Fine. You know the Alter Rebbe's Maimah, Lo Toiva Yosa Adam Levada, yeah? We learned it in Bereshis. Ha-Adam is Adam Elyon. He says, Lo Toiva Yosa Adam Levada. It's not good for Hashem. Hashem said, it's not good for me to be alone. It's not good. Eseloi Ezer, Kenegdoi. That was the Tzimtzum. Kenegdoi, the opposition, that's the Tzimtzum. But it's really a help. Why is it a help? Because it brings the Ein Sof into the finite, and there's a real relationship. That's what a real relationship means. You have to work through the Tzimtzum. You see it very much in an example the Alter Rebbe gives of a marriage, Adam and Chava. Chava took Adam out of his loneliness, and Adam took Chava out of her loneliness. How does that happen? Are Adam and Chava one, or are they not one? Adam and Chava were one. They were created as one. Then they were separated. But they're not really separated, because they're really one. But they are separated. So what happens now? They come back together. How does that take Adam away from his loneliness? If Chava would have never been separate from Adam, he would have remained lonely with Chava. That's why you can't get married to yourself. Why can't you get married to yourself? The great Kabbalist Jackie Mason once said that the definition of chutzpah is you come to a therapist because you have a split personality and you want a group discount. Right? I could come to the civil court, to the Besad Kedushin, say, listen, I have a really split personality, I'm a Gemini. So I have a split personality, okay, I want to marry myself. Much more shalom bias. Somehow you remain lonely. Why do you remain lonely? Only Chava takes you out of your levada. You know why? Because of her otherness. Because she's different, not because she's part of you. But because she's part of you, you can really connect. You understand? It says that Adam tried having intimacy with, the Rashi says, right? He had intimacy with every animal. You remember when you learned that in school, or they skipped it?
I did learn it in school.
It says Rashi had relations with every animal. What is that supposed to mean? Huh? I'm sorry, Adam. But he was not happy. What does it mean? It's an unbelievable word. Really, we have a relationship with every animal. When you look at an elephant, don't you feel something? Am I the only crazy one in this room? Huh? Don't you feel something when you look at a deer in the morning, right? Calmly eating the grass in your garden. Don't you want to say, come, let's fabreng together? I do want to, but somehow they're not interested. Huh? I want to have you for lunch. Right, but Adam wasn't allowed to eat animals. There was there's a kinship. You look at a chimpanzee. Sometimes you go to the ocean. I was once by the ocean. I saw a bunch of sea lions. They were dancing, right? And you want to jump in with them and say, "Come, let's do this together." I wasn't invited. There's a kinship with every animal, but it's not a spouse. It's not a spouse. Why? It's still levada. Chava is part of Adam. But on the other hand, if she wouldn't be separate from him, he would remain lonely. You see the paradox? So she's him, he's her, but she's not him, she's not her. Because she's not him and not her, In other words, simply speaking, you can get into a fight. You can get into a fight. So in our oneness, I'm not lonely anymore. So the Alter Rebbe says beautifully, it's an unbelievable vart. We did a marriage seminar with Moshe Zev. So he gave, if I could paraphrase, he gave a session called Embracing Marital Conflict. Meaning, they teach you, don't fight with your wife, don't fight with your husband. Yeah, good luck. So you say, yeah, but you're going to fight, but don't worry, it's normal. That's not the vart. That's again, Simsum Shalai Kipshuta. You know, the conflict needs to be embraced because that's what allows you to become one, to go out of your loneliness. In other words, if there's no conflict, which means we're the same, I'm lonely. It's because we're not the same, because we could fight right now, and we could fight for 65 years, right? About your mother, or where we're going for Pesach, or where we're sending our kids to Vishnitz or Ashar, or whatever the other options are. That we can also, that it's possible that I won't be lonely. So the Alter Rebbe says, where does this happen? It doesn't happen down there, it happens up there. Adam and Chava is a mashal. Every husband and wife are a mashal. Pre-tzimtzum, it's levadoi. So Hashem says, Loi toi ve'yoi Sodom levadoi. It's not good. It's comfortable, but it's not good. It's comfortable, but it's not good.
Why? It's so comfortable. Why not good? What's
Go deeper and you'll see. Go beyond all the traumas and you'll see that it's loitov. I didn't decide that. I understand what you're saying. I get you. What did he do for those 130 years?
no, just kidding.
The Gemara says that Gemacht Shedim. That's what it says. In Eidevin, In Zohar, Kuf Lamed Shana. In Kabbalah, those Kuf Lamed Shana, oh my God, we're still busy with those Kuf Lamed Shana. It's beyond this shear, but those Kuf Lamed Shana, yeah. It certainly changed the trajectory of history. So the Alter Rebbe says, that's the tzimtzum. Post tzimtzum, there could be a real relationship. He's not levadai anymore. But how? Because there's a kenegdai. So both elements are very, very true. So we're not saying here, there's no bchira, there's no evil, everybody is a tzaddik, everything is good, everything is rosy. There was a tzimtzum, and there's free choice. What we are saying is that in the ultimate perspective of what the world is leading to, which is what Geula means, the Rebbe used to say Geula is the same letters like Goyla. Goyla is exile. You would think redemption should have another word in Hebrew, right? It's the same letters, Gimel, Vav, Lamed, Hey. What's the difference? You put it on Aleph. You understand? That's everything. Well, what is he saying? Geula is Goyla. It's the same thing. I'll put it differently. There's no Geula without Goyla. Geula is Goyla. But Goyla is exile. It needs the Aleph there.
Did the Rebbe say Mashiach now? Is that what he's meaning then? Is that the Rebbe?
This is Mashiach. What does Mashiach now mean? Mashiach now is very, very deep. What does now mean? Why not in a minute? You waited 6,000 years, you can't wait another minute. So there's a joke, right? A Jew tells God, you know, what's $1,000? What's $1 million for you? God, it's $1, right? And 1,000 years is a day. You're so big, so give me $1 million. God says, wait a day. We don't like the word now. I mean, your wife likes the word now, but come home now. But psychologically, the word now is a very threatening word. We like transitions. La'at, 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 la'at. I have to work through all my stuff. The word now is a geula word. The word now means you're free. The word now equals tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta. You understand what I'm saying? We don't like the word now. We want Mashiach now. 2 hours. I have to finish davening. There's daf yomi. I got to go to the bank. I have to make money. I have trauma. I have a therapy session. There's yoga. There's Pilates. I still didn't have my coffee. Now means now. You don't need to. You don't need to limit yourself. You're free now. No. I'm too complicated. I'm messed up. You hear what I'm saying? The word now is a very, very deep word.
That is true butlers.
It's liberation. It's emancipation. It's not pathologizing the world and yourself. That's not an easy thing to do, especially post-Holocaust.
So it's a contradiction to marriage. She wants you now.
So the wife is already pre-tzimtzum. She wants you home now. You say, I'm coming home soon. No, now. You don't have to finish what you're doing. You're finished now. The emes it says in Chassidus, it's not for the masculinity is connected with oir more, and femininity is connected with kalim, malchus. Right? Men have their big dreams, and then you tell them to your wife, and what does she say? You know when you plan your Chalamoya trip for your kids, and then you tell your wife what you're doing, and what does she say? On one hand, if you don't plan the Chalamoya trip, you're not a man. She'll be very upset. But don't think that your plan is ever going to be implemented in the family. You got to plan out. But nothing you plan makes sense. We all know that. Right? If we do your plan, there's not going to be dinner, we're not going to have where to sleep. You always need kalim. People don't like kalim. That's why they have hard times in their marriages. And it's always tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta. So the oir and the keli are really one. You understand? So we want Mashiach now is the profoundest experience in Avodas Hashem. It's just when people hear the word Mashiach, they shut down because it's part of the, guilt, pain, whatever. The word Mashiach, What?
I didn't grow up with that.
But let me use the word Mashiach in English. The word Mashiach in English is emotional emancipation, cosmic emancipation, where we experience the full fusion between infinite oneness permeating every fiber of our existence. So being into Mashiach is not such a cultish thing. I'm joking. I'm saying when somebody came to the Baditcheva and he said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. He says, the God that you don't believe in, I also don't believe in. The Mashiach that makes you miserable, I also don't believe in. Everything needs definitions. You understand? That's what stereotyping is. Stereotyping is like with anti-Semites. You hear a Jew, he's growing horns and he owns every bank in the world and he's taking away your house tomorrow. The protocols of the elders of Zion. That's what propaganda is. You'll ask Joseph Goebbels and Stalin about propaganda, right? That was their goinus, propaganda. Everything is propaganda. What's propaganda? Propaganda is the ultimate lie, the ultimate concealment. The process of tikkun is undoing the propaganda. Propaganda creates a message and you live in that propaganda. So every Jew is, a money lender, is a Shylock in the Merchant of Venice. So all these things, the same is true with God. What is God? When you have a certain perception of God, it's very difficult. And then the Baditcheva says, tell me what he looks like, and I promise you he doesn't exist. You're almost right for not believing in that God. A teenager came to me the other day. He tells me I'm an atheist. You know, Medepeyus. Well, he had all the levushim. He didn't look like an atheist, put it that way. He says, I'm an atheist. You know, he watched 6 YouTube videos of Dawkins and Harris and Hitchens, and he became an atheist. Good, sweet kid. So I told him, do me a favor, take a paper. I gave him a pen and paper. Write down the features of this God that you don't believe in. Just write about what type of guy is he. So he wrote down some horrible things. I'm like, you know what? Thank God you're an atheist. Thank God you're an atheist. Baruch Hashem. I said, thank Hashem that you're an atheist. He said, Hashem doesn't exist. I said, yeah, this Hashem Taka doesn't exist. Thank the real Hashem that this God doesn't exist. We should be very thankful. So it's always definitions. Okay. So I'm traveling next week. I'm going for a Shabbaton to California, and then to Eretz Yisrael for the Kesher Nafshi convention for parents struggling with their children. So next week, Tveria, it's a convention. Everybody's welcome. No, I'm traveling already. So next week there's no shiurim. We're all traveling. So next week there's no shiurim. I'm coming back in a week from Monday from Eretz Yisrael. So the next shiur will be Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. There's also the next 2 Shabbosim I'm not here. Everybody have a beautiful day and a beautiful week. And Hashem should give us all the energy to be able to integrate the Ein Sof within the framework of our existence.
You have the energy, you just have to believe it.
Yeah, very good. Energy you have to believe that you have the energy. I think children understand it the best. Oh, you mean in the pain?
They go through pain, which they don't have a choice. You said everybody has a choice.
So, right. So the deepest thing we can do for a child who's in pain is, they call it the 4 S's. Seeing, a child needs to be seeing. A child, seeing. Lirotata, seeing. And the child needs to be soothed. L'chabek. Arum nemen. Yimini techabkeni. And we want to create for a child a sense of safety and a sense of security. So if the child feels...
What's the difference between safety and security?
Just 1 second. If a child is experiencing something, but they feel that there's somebody holding them and making space for their emotions, and they're being understood, I can really understand them and feel them and experience them, and create a space where they can be safe, and they feel that they're seeing, and if they're hurting, I can just soothe them. I can just say, I'm here with you. That's essentially the modeling of Tzimtzum Shalakim Pshutai. Just to tell a kid, get over it, it causes him to delegitimize his emotions. That means what I'm feeling is not true. My mommy thinks it's a stupid thing. My father thinks it's a stupid thing. So it teaches me not to trust my emotions. So now when I grow up and I'm having, let's say, you're going with somebody and your emotions are telling you this is not good. Oh, don't trust your emotions. That could be a mess, right? Yeah. Or sometimes, let's say, a child comes home from school, Chaim hit me, right? So you're like, Chaim? Chaim is such a sweet kid. It was nothing. What'd you just do? The mother meant well. She was trying to say Chaim he's not bully. He's just, but what did she do to the kid? Your experience is not authentic. You basically lied to me about Chaim Because Chaim, in other words, you're imagining things. It's your problem. So and if this happens again and again and again and again over 5 years, 10 years, what does the child feel? There's no room for my emotions. There's no room for my experience. So as he grows up, this can have very serious consequences. It means that in life, the people I trust, which is my mother and my father, didn't create room for this. So that means they're bad. My emotions are bad. My perspectives are stupid. So now I'm not even going to share my emotions anymore. I don't want to be a stupid person. So I'll just find out what is everybody else feeling, and I'll just repeat it like a parrot. I become a people's pleaser.
What's the problem?
You remember you told us the story, B'narenu b'skenenu.
What's the problem?
I have this conflict.
Now, this doesn't mean you worship a child's emotions. A child says, Chaim hit me, call the police and arrest him. I'm not calling the police.
I'm not going to go running to the manal or to the principal, whatever you want to call it. But what
The
if
first-
you tell a child?
First thing is that the child needs to feel that their emotions matter. Their being matters. They're validated. I see them. I understand them. I'm here for you. It's hard, because if you don't do this for yourself, you're not going to do this for your children.
I haven't done it for myself.
So you have to do it for. If you don't do it for yourself, you won't do it for your children. In other words, if what I do to myself is, shut up, YY, you're going to tell your kid, close your mouth. You understand? Do homework and be quiet, because you don't. That's what I do here. If I do it here, I'm going to do it here. It's the same thing. This is all part of this nakuda. Do we have to be afraid of experience? If you want to go to the deepest level, this is all the nakuda of tzimtzum shalai k'pshuta. Not that you need the whole idea of tzimtzum to understand the idea that you don't delegitimize a kid's emotions. It's pretty simple, but the real nakuda is, life is about your experience. You don't cut off your heart and say, I'm just going to be a malach. That's not real. And it's against the whole inyan. It's against the bria. To put it this way, if you become a malach, God is going to be very lonely. If you're a person, he won't be lonely. You understand? There'll be a real relationship.
I have another example.
You know not to come and tell
So
your parents that
that's what some people misunderstand us.
Yeah, now the challenge is when the child was alone and helpless, didn't have this, and therefore he shuts down or disassociates. So now there's a lot of pain here, and there may be some even wounds that affected, how my brain functions. A lack of trust, a lack of connectivity, a lack of ability to relate. There's a lot of disassociation. Yeah, the parts of the brain are frozen sometimes. Parts of the brain go offline. It's like you cut the wire. There's a wire there, but it's not attached. Literally, people have that. We could reconnect, but it's an avoida. But literally, like you cut a wire, the wire is here, but it's not going to work. So I cut off the wire of my brain because that wire had too much pain. Too much pain was coming through that wire. Too much electricity. I was exploding. So you cut the wire like the electrician. 3-year-olds are very smart. They're good electricians. They go into the brain. They cut the wire. No electricity coming through. I'm safe, but the wire is not working. Now when I'm older, that wire is not here. So how do I reconnect it? So this is where Tzimtzum Shalai K'Pshuta comes in. Huh? The disassociation is the ultimate concealment. It's the ultimate finite experience in its worst manifestation, right? I'm not just finite, I'm detached. The wire was cut. Yaakov chevel nachalosai. Alter Rebbe writes, Yaakov is chevel, there's always a rope. And he says a chevel, a rope, it could stretch 1,000 miles. And if you touch the bottom of the rope, it has a ripple effect. The top of the rope moves. Because it's all one flow. Yeah, Yaakov chevel. What's karis? V'nichrasa nefesh. You cut the rope. You cut the rope. The difference is when you cut the rope, you cut the rope. Here, the rope is never really cut. Because tzimtzum is not kipshuta. So the rope is cut in my experience. Like we learned the Maimah Shamalis Me'amakim before Rosh Hashanah. There could be karis in Yaakov, not in Yisrael. You remember? Yaakov is Akev. It's the Yud that comes in the Akev. It's the rope coming down, it's cut. But the Yisrael, the Rosh, which is always present, because this is not a physical rope. The whole rope is you. It's always connected. You can't go and snip the top of the rope. It's always connected.
Oris is never from Shemayim because it's Israel. It's only
From Oretz. My consciousness is offline. I'm disassociated. Disassociated from my mother, from my father, from my siblings, from my family, from my spouse, from Hashem, from me. I'm cut off from me. The wire is cut off. It's not coming to me. So now, if tzimtzum is shloike pshutai, if you can go back and that experience becomes redeemed. What does it mean it becomes redeemed? At that moment, you were Ein Sof. You were infinity experiencing it. I didn't know this because I'm in the post-tzimtzum world. And then I can re-embrace everything. And suddenly, it's infinite consciousness. So the infinite light was fully present there.
How is that more powerful than the
That is what Kol David B'chol Tavav means.
So I'm saying, without the knowledge of the Simpsons, get to the logic that you have just that. How are you having a better day or neighbors?
When you say Gamzu L'Tova or Kol Madav Rachman L'Tavavid, that's essentially what it's saying.
I'm saying what? So how is Chassidus improved the experience?
Because Gamzu L'Tova doesn't mean that the Gamzu L'Tova requires that I should disassociate. Sometimes a person could think,
Why would you think it does? Why would you think it allows you to disassociate? You're saying, I'm connected to you, I love you, whatever you do is right.
because emotionally it could be painful.
If you're saying it like a robot, you can say
Sometimes
Simpsons also like a robot.
A person
Say
feels,
Simpsons also
you're
like a
right.
robot. So what robotics, not robot, what has to see this improved upon?
experientially, it becomes sometimes too painful. So a person feels that the Gamzu L'Tova means that you don't trust your emotions.